state to step up. Ms. Channing with Consensus has a small presentation that will work out a lot better if we do now versus later. So if I could have Ms. Channing start with their presentation, it'll be fairly quick and it'll save us a little time on the end.
Does she have a mic? Do you have a mic?
I know, I hear you. This is a nice building.
I'll chat. So,
No, Emma, we have to do it on mic because we're streaming. So we'll get you a mic.
Alright. Sorry, not sorry.
There you go.
okay. So I'm just trying to get hold of my jetpack. So this was a little bit.
No worries. I'll take 2 seconds while Ms. Channing's getting ready to remind those that weren't here before that after every topic that we work on this afternoon, we will invite public testimony. We encourage that public testimony, so if you have any additional information or input to provide, we welcome you to come up, introduce yourself, who you're with, and then work through the chairman of the committee, and you'll have an opportunity to answer questions or work with the rest of the committee, but that's the protocol that we use, and we hope you will engage with us whenever you have something to provide the committee for shaping this work. Thank you.
Also note that if you do testify, you need to sign in at the front.
Why do I have the only one?
I don't know. Here. Anyways, you got to sign in up there so that we can push in minutes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Emma Channing. I'm here to represent Consensus, my words and my own. We are presenting a number of functionalities of what is called a burner wallet. We're going to be handing out cards for everyone. The main function that you will need to know about is that this burner wallet is going to be able to buy you coffee at Coal Creek Tap, which is just outside the Hilton Garden Inn, over the next 2 or 3 days, and then a beer on Sunday at Coal Creek Tap over in the main town. There's also a number of games on here, which we would love to give you a little bit more time to get into, but we hope you're going to be able to see. I'm just going to basically show you the basic functionality of Burner Wallet and how you'll get in. So we're going to be handing out these little cards. This is Matt Caldwell of GC Consensus. And on the back, you're going to have a QR code that's going to contain your private key, as well as an ability to load up this app. So I'm just going to load this one up here. Is that right? There we go. So what you're seeing here is the Caldwell coin, which is a local coin, and we're funding Coal Creek Coffee and Coal Creek Tap with it. The Expedite is effectively gas. It's the same as gas in Ethereum and allows the Caldwell coin to transmit. If you want to continue to play with the games and the functionality, you can go to Expedite and convert ETH into Expedite. We have a vendor online at the moment, which if I just click in, it's called Creek Up Down. It's just going to load in a minute. Should.
Nice demo. Demo booth.
It takes a little bit of time, but literally you can go in and hit purchase, and they have an iPad there which will allow them to track. And at the end of the day, we will be able to pay them out. And what you should all go explore in the apps and games are these 3. And if there's if people are interested, we need to actually know a particular time to fire up the DAO dog game. This is a non-governance game. Just waiting for it to load. But we'll probably pick a time during the hackathon to get this running. please, coming in. This is all functionality developed by a bespoke company called Gitcoin. So it's in private alpha testing, but we'll figure out a time to run the game and announce that at the task force tomorrow. But there's also within here a, excuse my language, shitcoin trading game, which anyone can access at the moment, and is all there and lots of fun. So I hope you all enjoy the coffee and the beer, and we hope you enjoy the functionality that's in the wallet. We'll be passing out the cards shortly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. James. Appreciate it. All right, and I see that most everyone here is participating in the hackathon and has the registration for that too, so just give us something to take advantage of. All right, Mr. Co-Chair.
At this time, I'd like to ask, we're going to start with the Secretary of State's office and ask for an update in regards to the financial technology sandbox rules being formed by your agency. Also, any updates on the blockchain filing system, API development methods, expedited implementation, if you have any ideas that you would like our help with.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the task force. Kelly James, Wyoming Secretary of State's office, and I'm happy to give you an update on the rules for the FinTech Sandbox. We are doing rules the regular way, not emergency, through our office, so they will be out for public comment probably right at the beginning of October. They're currently with the governor's office, just asking for permission to proceed. But we did work with our Attorney General representative, and we got them in good shape. As Commissioner Faulkner said, the bill was so comprehensive, the rules are very, very short. They're less than a page and a half. Really just talking about our authority and the application process, validating residency just for that consumer portion to make sure that they are a Wyoming resident, a little bit on the record keeping, and then just extensions and conclusion of the sandbox. So again, they will be out for public comment in October. We'll leave them out there for 50 days. They will go effect January 1.
Ms. James, in regards to the financial sandbox, have you had any outreach from any interested parties?
Mr. Chairman, I did, especially right when the legislation was passed. I had some questions and calls, just generally. I haven't recently, but once the rules go public, I think we probably will see a little bit as well.
In regards to what was done last year, particularly on this bill, I know in the past, in regards to the ICO legislation, your department in the Secretary of State's agency was kind of looked at as being pretty progressive compared to other states. And there was a lot of states kind of reaching out to you and associations. Is that still the case in this regard?
Mr. Chairman, it is, yes. And I just got back from our fall conference, actually, and a lot of people come seek us out, find us, and want to talk about it, want to know our experience and what we've seen since then. Also, I have a lot of people come up to me and ask me if I know Albert.
There you go. Good question.
It's kind of one of those fascinating aspects where really not enough things is given to the Secretary of State's office, the Division of Banking. Legislators in states across the country pass crazy stuff all the time. Wyoming's not the only crazy group out there. I know it's disappointing, but we're not. What ends up happening, for instance, is I think it kind of really sheds some light on things. For example, the state of Wyoming, we were the first to do the Food Freedom Act. We were nuts. Department of Ag implemented rules. Everything's fine. People are buying kombucha and raw milk on the roadside stands. Nobody's sick yet, which is good. And it's worked. But in North Dakota, they passed the same law, and they're in this whole duke it out fight with their Department of Health. And they're still not to the level that Wyoming's at because their agency is not doing as near of a good job, in my opinion. So I think this is a lot the same. And so really kudos to you guys, what you do at the Secretary of State's office is, of course, implementing our crazy ideas. But on top of that, the rules and regulation, the expertise that comes hand in hand, I hope that it continues to push your agency farther up the ladder as far as being recognized as a national thought leader, because really that's what you are. And so it's really appreciated in that regard.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any questions in regards to the financial sandbox rules? Seeing none. In regards to the blockchain filing system, API development, and methods, expedite implementation, for notes for the committee and for the public, this has to do with House Bill number 70, I believe it was, a piece of legislation that gave the authority for the Secretary of State's office last year to seek out any kind of efficiencies that they could possibly find in their current filing system, whether that's a business filing system, UCC filing, those types of things, and implement at their own pace. So the reason why we ask is there anything that your agency needs as far as legislative help in that regard? And if you could just give us a general update. I know you've done so in the past, but any extra would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Karen Wheeler, Deputy Secretary of State. And so I really don't have a lot to update you on because I updated you a month ago. And at that time, I let you know exactly what we've been doing since the session ended and that we have been in conversations with vendors. I was just on the phone with 2 more this week, so that is a little bit of an update. I was also asked to come and talk about our budget. So I went back and our budget has already been signed by Secretary Buchanan and submitted. And in looking at it and talking to the Secretary, the governor gave pretty clear directives to the elected officials and his cabinet to be very thoughtful about our budgets and our exception requests, and that given the tight revenue stream, possibly not all requests may be funded. So Secretary Buchanan did honor that. We've kept, as usual, our budget very lean. As far as expediting implementation, yeah, don't I wish I could push that magic button and do that. I really do. But when we worked with you, Mr. Chairman, and the committees and the legislature as a whole on House Bill 70 last year, there was a reason that we chose the timeline we did. And the legislature recognized the many functions of our office, not to mention that we have an upcoming presidential election in 2020 that we have a small staff of 30. And election years, it consumes almost our entire office from May through the end of the general election. So we are also going to hopefully be implementing new voting equipment in the same time frame. And when we implement new voting equipment, it's not just plopping machines into each county. There's a lot that does go with it. So the legislature was very respectful of that and worked with us on the timeline, which we greatly appreciate. And so I hope that you will let us continue to work with House Bill 70. And we are looking at all of our systems. We are reaching out to our customers. So yes, we will need your help. And as we get there, you know I'll be right before your committee asking for the help.
Great. Any questions, committee, in regards to the API commercial filing? I guess one would be, I know you guys don't track the sector in regards to your business filings, but has the Secretary of State's office seen that continue to see the 5 to 6% rise in business filings that was seen last year?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it is your typical growth that we do continue to see. We are certainly not seeing a decrease, I can tell you that.
Great. Any other questions, committee? Seeing none. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're going to go to public comments now, and that would be in regards to both topics, the update on the financial technology sandbox rules and the blockchain filing system. Mr. Allen, go ahead.
Chris Brown, Blockchain Commons, Mr. Chairman, committee members. We have scheduled tomorrow a demo from the decentralized identity community. around a working demo with real technology of the certification process that would be, in our opinion, fairly easy for the Secretary of State's office to be able to implement quickly if they desire to. But I wanted to, so I encourage people to come to the demo tomorrow. I think it's sometime after 1, and I will have that then. But there are 2 sort of questions that I would love to have you ask the Department of State, Secretary of State Department. In the original bill, there was a statement in regards to that the technology shall endeavor to use blockchain technology and include application programming interfaces and robust secure measures. Of the people that have already talked with them, are any of them using blockchain mechanisms? I mean, I can imagine that Google and other people who they already do business with are submitting things that are not in that, but your bill did specifically say blockchain mechanisms. Secondly, Homeland Security has been doing a lot of good work, and it's been supporting a number of efforts here in the United States on using decentralized sort of blockchain-based for security, and they have some principles that they basically are not only adopting for themselves, they are asking that other parties do so as well. So one of their requirements, and these are not things that are in Bill 70, is interoperable standards and specifications that are patent-free, royalty-free, and free to implement. So all the work that they're supporting in the demo I will show you tomorrow is in that category. They are specifically working to avoid vendor lock-in and to be impartial to specific blockchain solutions. So rather than choosing one, be able to have some neutrality, to be able to choose multiple of them. In particular, they're supporting 3 categories of technologies and have funded to the tune of about $5 million that I know about in the areas of decentralized identifiers, verifiable credentials, multi-party key management. Why are they doing it? They're doing these for certificates of origin, for supply chain, not just inside the United States, but stuff that comes through other countries, official licenses and certificates, in particular in the Customs Department, and various kinds of authorizations for things like employment, immigration, etc. Particular advantage that decentralized identifiers have is that they are an international standard. There are other countries doing active work on these that are interoperating with it. In particular, British Columbia, I tried to get one of their representatives to come, have already implemented all of the stuff that you guys are talking about in something called Workbook and the Verifiable Organization Network. They registered over 500,000 business entities using certificates issued by their equivalent of the Secretary of State, and over 1.4 million credentials of other types, licenses, things of that nature, all using decentralized identity technology. So this is not an area that is unproven, that other people aren't working on and investing in. It is an active area. You can leverage the investment that these other organizations, Homeland Security, British Columbia, et cetera, are doing in this technology to make it a lot less expensive. I've been effectively told by a couple of these companies they would, that Homeland Security would really like to see a state be one of the people that partners in this particular area. If this is going to be a I think the bill said December of 2021, you're going to miss out. You're not going to be able to participate in any of these things that Homeland Security, whatever. You will be definitely a year or 2 behind what other organizations and countries are doing.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Kocher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris, with regard to the workbook, does it meet all of the standards that you laid out as sort of the gold standard for what we should be looking to open source and transmutability of blockchain type, et cetera?
Yes. So in the pilot, they are using decentralized identifiers, which supports multiple blockchains. They're using the verifiable credentials standard, which has just now become a global standard. The DID standard has a couple more, steps to be going through. They've made a commitment to support and are part of the final steps on that process. At this point, they're only using one of the blockchains. They're using Hyperledger Indy, but they have been active in the Decentralized Identity Foundation, which is a multi-company initiative that includes Uport, a number of Bitcoin blockchain, decentralized identifiers, et cetera. And
Hyperledger Indy is a part of IBM's network.
IBM is one of the supporters of Hyperledger Indy. So is, and then DIF, Microsoft is also a member of them, and they have a Bitcoin-based decentralized identifier. So this quarter, the Decentralized Identity Foundation has announced an initiative to deal with some of the interoperability issues across blockchains.
Mr. Chair, follow-up?
Go ahead.
So when you're looking at that as something that's already functionally doing some of what we're talking about, I assume they have an open source API available as well, so how challenging would it then be to integrate that system? It seems like it's probably the easiest path to integrate that system with our own corporate registration, use that and have it be conduit, so we end up having the blockchain registration aspect being done through Orgbook, and then maintaining the corresponding database here, or at least the processing of the database here.
Mr. Allen?
So that is a good scenario. They aren't the only ones. I know that a different organization, the one I will be demonstrating tomorrow, has been working with Homeland Security, and they were able to very quickly change the stuff that they were doing for Homeland Security certifications and be able to do the entire, you have a registered agent become a commercial, apply to become a commercial registration agent, and have the commercial or that registered agent be able to apply on behalf of the company for a corporate thing. That demo is a working demo. Obviously, it's not using keys secured by the Department of State, but we have a working demo now with real technology using real standards. So my ideal would be if these guys really, want to be able to say, hey, we were one of the first ones, hire two of them. Force them to be interoperable. They're going to have to do a lot of extra work for that. And they'll do it cheaply for you if it meets their kind of marketing and business timeframes, because they're already working with other governments and they want to be able to say, oh, well, we're also doing this for Wyoming.
Further questions for Mr. Allen? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir. For the public comment in regards to the update from the Secretary of State. Come on up, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Emma Channing. I represent Consensus, known as Mayor. I think we will be also demoing tomorrow. And I think what we would add to that is, yes, open standards is important. The Digital Identity Foundation is the largest open standard body, and it's definitely something to look to. Hyperledger Indy is an interesting chain in and of itself. It's not even interoperable with Hyperledger.
There was my question in regards to when I heard Hyperledger Indy. I've always been when it comes to Hyperledger, can you explain how it would be decentralized? I don't know about Hyperledger in India. It's not something I've looked into, but I guess the definition of decentralized for me is different than others.
Again, trying to choose my words carefully. I think people within the Digital Identity Foundation would differ in their opinions as to whether Hyperledger Indy is indeed decentralized. Certainly something for debate.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions so far? Was that Ms. Trenley?
That's it, other than to say that UPort has built out a corporate register. As we've been corresponding with Representative Yin on this particular topic, digital identity software is blockchain's oldest piece of tech. The tech is really pre-smoothed out. There are a range of options, and interoperability is something that will come. It's not really present right now. But UPort and Alpine, which are two parts of our tech and we'll demo tomorrow, both do corporate registry, and it's built out in a number of functionalities. We're going to demo Portlandia, which shows an entire integration, not just for corporate registry, but for graduate licenses and so on. I think what we would emphasize is the key is experience in helping municipalities build this out. In our experience, it takes about 6 weeks to go to it. So it's not, we work in 2-week sprints, so we consider 6 weeks a very long time. Obviously, that may be a different perspective from a government perspective, but it is about informing the public, informing people who are in the offices who are going to have to use this technology, who are going to have to scan documents in, who are going to have to verify the credentials on the software. And it's really that process and that experience which we have and others in the industry have that we would emphasize as the key here rather than actually technology.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Any further public comment? Mr. Allen? Yeah?
So I think that the key point here is you have choices. UPort has already done this type of work in Europe with the city of Zug and with some other pilots. Sovereign / Hyperledger Indy have done so in British Columbia. Verus One has done it in the United States and some other nations, which they haven't announced yet. So there's at least three organizations, and I've been, again, I'm representing the industry, not a particular company. I've had at least 2 others who said, oh, I would really like to join you in September to do a demo. So my key problem is that this interest and this support and the ability to do rapid sprints to get this type of stuff in, if you're going to do that in 2021, 2022, you're going to be paying for the whole thing. Because everybody else will have done it before, and you're just going to be doing a service. Whereas right now, you're in a position to be a leader in this area. It's not perfect. I mean, my organization is written up like this. A lot of people ask the question, you do, is such and such a blockchain sufficiently decentralized? So we're actually in the process of writing a W3C standards document to help people understand what are the questions to ask. We're not going to tell you that Sovereign is, more centralized than the other, but we will be able to help you ask the question smarter so that you can make your own decision. So this is a community thing. The community is excited about it. When I spoke to the Decentralized Identity Foundation, which is the one that UPort is very active in, they were very interested in dealing with some of the interoperability issues. And so you could literally require that as part of the request for proposal, that it must be interoperable, or you must have at least 2 or something of that nature. So I'm saying it's doable, and it's doable soon. You can do it before. They said they really tie up in May. I think you might be able to get something running in a closed pilot before Christmas. And I think you might get something deployed to the world, into Q1. So just want to make sure you guys know that there's an opportunity there.
Okay. Representative Western.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask Mr. Allen, what the heck is Hyperledger, but I just Googled it instead.
So you probably found out that that's IBM's network that they've developed. Any further public comment in regards to the update from the Secretary of State? Seeing none, we're closing that topic out. Committee, do you have any recommendations or anything like that? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Co-Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it seems to me that there might be things that we do more quickly, and I understand the Secretary of State's office has a lot of challenges with the next election, but I think perhaps we can try and work with them and find ways where we can facilitate this and move forward more quickly, because I am sensitive to Mr. Allen's concern. He said if we put it off for a couple of years, then we're following rather than leading, and I think it certainly was one of our objectives to be a leader on this, rather than moving slowly. So I don't know what the path forward is, but I think we should sit down with the Secretary of State's office and try and find a way that we can work with one of these existing solutions or a multitude of these existing solutions and get something going relatively soon, even if it is kind of a limited scope, certainly not a replacement, but it would be a parallel process, which we would have in place kind of in a beta phase for a while before I move forward with it. So hopefully we can get things going a little more quickly than the 2021 timeline based on an understanding that there are products already out there that meet the criteria that we want to meet, that are open source, that are platform dependent to some degree, and we should be reaching out to those. So I don't know that we need to take any action at this point other than acknowledge that we should try and find some ways to move forward more quickly. Those are my thoughts.
Any further comments, committee? Seeing none, I'm going to close that out, and we're going to open back up or go into digital assets statutes. That's 20 LSO 198 version 3.3. And so committee, that I believe is in tab 7. Yes, in tab 7 of your binders. Ian or Tamara, which one of you are going to walk us through that? Ian?
Mr. Chairman, I can talk about that. This is a result of the last meeting. The statutory changes made in this bill were the result of LSO 128 provided some additional information about hybrid digital assets. But in that bill, we have detailed a number of just kind of cleanup, what I would say are cleanup amendments from Senate File 125 in the digital asset statutes. So this bill represents what remains of those requests. I think that they're fairly plain vanilla changes. I'll start on, there is a staff comment on the first and second page that describes those things that didn't move forward, just so that you're aware of those. That moving the digital asset custodian services from their current position in Title 34 to Title 13, the LSO didn't receive direction on that, so that's not done in this bill. Nor was any further clarification of qualified custodian provisions that were initially outlined in LSO 128. So those are not included in this bill. But what is on page 2 you'll see that we have added in the title the designation control agreements. By the way, that's not actually, LSO doesn't, our drafting convention wouldn't have that underlined in the final bill draft. However, I just wanted to let you know that's the way it looks here, so it's clear that we're adding control agreements to that title. It simply is a matter of notice because that's an important provision within that statute. There's a simple cleanup on page 3 on line 2. Gets rid of the word also. That's simply a cleanup. On page 3, starting 3429 to 104, we've stricken that first line. That's simply, we have described in LSO 128 how that banks are already not subject to that tax, and so this was not an accurate statement of the law. It's the fact that we strike it makes absolutely no substantive difference, but it's just more accurate. On lines 20 through 22, we also strike that last sentence. Now, this is a separate issue that talks about those amounts upon which the banks have to pay the tax. We struck this. The task force talked about a couple of different ways to handle this. LSO took the liberty of doing it this way, and I've got a staff comment on the next page, on page 4, that describes why this is probably the best way to do it. When you look at the existing language in this subsection, it already makes clear that a bank which provides custodial services under this section is the one who has to pay the tax, and then makes clear that it has to pay the tax on those assets relating to assets held in custody under this section. So in other words, I think the last sentence is unnecessary in this instance. I believe you could ask the banking commissioner, but I think that this was their position as well. That was probably the best way to handle that. Finally, on page 4, on line 16 and 17, we just clarify that this is not some super jurisdictional provision for Wyoming courts. Rather, it provides jurisdiction to Wyoming courts subject to other jurisdictional limits like monetary values, etc. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shaw. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go to, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Shaw? Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mr. Shaw, what happened to the hybrid tokens bill? Did we set that back? This was originally part of that, I think, right?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Shaw.
It was indeed. There was no motion on the hybrids tokens bill, so it didn't move forward.
Yeah, as is often the case, we get these good ideas we've never seen. Sometimes we can't seem to quite figure out what it actually looks like. And that's my recollection of the hybrid token. Not being able to figure out how it fit. Any further questions for Mr. Shaw? Seeing none, then I would ask the Division of Banking if there's any issues with the bill. They are shaking their head no, there are no issues with the bill. Great. Yes, go ahead.
Move the bill?
We gotta go public.
Sorry.
Okay. Is there any public comment in regards to 20 LSO 198 version 0.3? And this is cleanup bill for qualified custodianship from last year. As was mentioned earlier, sometimes when you're building a will and there's no model language to go off of, you gotta come back the next year and fix some stuff. And we find ourselves doing that quite a bit because nobody's ever done this kind of thing before. So anybody, public comment? Qualified custodianship, it's really exciting. I'm excited. Senator Nethercott, are you excited about amending your legislation from last year?
I always like improvement.
All right, we're going to close public testimony then. We'll go into the bill committee. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Wong.
Move the bill, please.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Senator Nethercott. Committee, any amendments? Question on the bill being called. Mr. Shaw, please call the roll.
Senator Driscoll is excused. Senator Nethercott.
Aye.
Representative Olson. Representative Yin.
Aye.
Mr. Cole is excused. Ms. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Kaufman.
Aye.
Co-Chairman Lindholm.
Aye.
Co-Chairman Rothfuss.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Well, that was easy. Maybe that about puts us back in on task here. Well, we're 2 minutes late. 2 minutes behind now.
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. Our next topic is insurance investments in digital assets. That's 20 LSO 78 version 0.4. Insurance investments, digital assets. I would ask Mr. Shaw to present that first. Or Tamara, I'm sorry. Yes, please, Tamara.
Tamara Repley with LSO. The bill draft is 20 LSO 0078. You should have working draft 0.4. And this is one of those carryover bills that we began looking at in August and we're continuing to look at today. You have a new version in front of you though. And if you'll recall, this bill draft would allow an insurer, an insurance company, to invest in digital assets. So during the August meeting, questions came up about what type of digital assets are we talking about here and what would be appropriate, what's already investable under the insurance code. And specifically, the task force had questions about investments in commodities and in fiat currencies. And so I spoke with the Department of Insurance, and they're here, and I'll let them follow up on this testimony and this bill draft. But in the course of our conversations and in talking to the chairman afterwards, there are some changes that have come in 20 also 0078, and that's why you have a version 0.4, even though you didn't amend it last meeting. The first change is going to be within 267104, this is our insurance code. And this amendment on page 2, 1 and 5, was not present in your last bill. and it's just conforming the general requirements for an investment. The general requirement that each investment needs to be interest-bearing or interest-accruing or dividend or income paying. There's an exemption for stock. It says if stock has the ability to appreciate in value, it'll be considered income paying for purposes of the subsection. This change allows digital asset. Because as we get into the definition on the next page, a digital asset could be a digital stock, or it could be a type of investment, a vehicle that just doesn't pay income or dividends. So this is a conforming amendment. If this is the intent of the task force, I think it needs to be included. And that gets us into the next change, which was the same from the last bill. It is to explicitly allow an insurer on lines 26 through 29 of page 2 to invest in digital assets. And here I've copied in full the definition of a digital asset for you. This is from 3429 101A. A digital asset is any representation of economic, proprietary, or access rights stored in a computer readable format, and specifically takes the form of one of three. Can take the form of one of three: a digital consumer asset, a digital security, or virtual currency. So then, within that definition of digital asset, you have sub-definitions for each of those types of digital assets: the digital consumer asset, digital security, and virtual currency. And you can read those. I think the important one to look at is digital security. I think you're all familiar with these, but digital security points to another definition, which is our general securities definition. And so that's also copied for you on the bottom of page 3, going on to page 4 and through page 4, and you'll see an expansive list of what is a security. And it's a common things that we think of as securities, like stocks and bonds, but you can read that full list. So this bill would allow investment in any of these things that is in digital form. So that's the bill draft. Let's answer any questions or allow the insurance department to expand on this.
Tamara, you're going to have to forgive me. I can never remember how to pronounce your last name.
It's Reveille, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Reveille. I think, okay, I hope I said that right. Because I'll say it again. Weird moment in the task force. Thank you very much, Ms. Reveille. Any questions so far from the committee or LSO staff? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Co-Chairman.
Sure, I'd just like to say that it certainly does address the concerns that were raised last time on great meaning and those bills.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, we will. So no further questions for LSO staff. Mr. Roots? Mr. Ridge, which, by the way, congratulations are in order on that recent appointment.
Well, thank you. I just heard about it myself. I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, task force members, we're happy to answer any questions you have about the bill. We looked at it. We're neutral on the bill. We don't believe there's any prohibition against it, and ensure at this time investing in a digital asset. If you want to specify though in the statute, that's fine. We look at every asset, we look at the risk, we assess the value, and we use that when we do an examination. And I brought Ms. Johnson with me, who's our chief financial examiner, to answer any of the hard questions that deep into our statutes on assets.
Insurance law is like one of my favorite portions of law. I just really dig it. It's super exciting.
For me to be cited.
Yeah. Insurance law is something the last 6 years of my life. Not getting those years back. It is great work. It's just super tough. And she does it all for us, which is great on corporations. Any questions so far from the Department of Insurance? Like they've done some different one. Yeah, go ahead.
May I ask a quick question, Commissioner? Would insurance companies be able to wrap variable annuities around Bitcoin in separate accounts? Or do you think they would need a additional clarification? Do they have enough clarification to be able to do that in separate accounts?
Ms. Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, Linda Johnson with the Wyoming Insurance Department. Right now, we have custodian agreements with our insurance companies. They have to keep their assets in custodial accounts. Life insurance companies use separate accounts. Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, I'm not sure. We don't have any domestic life insurance companies in Wyoming, so we haven't dealt with separate accounts, so I haven't looked into that issue. But we can talk about that further.
I think that'd be a good directional look, specifically even if you get the member meeting of corporations. That way, if you foresee some problems, then we can act then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I've seen some rumblings about insurance companies wrapping variable annuities. We've seen it around Bitcoin. We've seen Bitcoin used for IRAs and the like. So it would be interesting. I hadn't thought of it previously, but since you were here, I figured I'd ask. And I think this bill as drafted is very clean and great, but if there's an opportunity to bring in a niche insurance industry, that would be maybe worth exploring as well. Thank you.
Any further questions for the Department of Insurance? I think it's a clean bill.
Do you think it's a clean bill?
It's a very clean bill.
I like it.
Mr. Kaufman, did you want to weigh in on the cleanliness of the bill? All right, seeing no further questions, thank you very much, Department of Insurance, and congrats once again on the upgrade.
Yeah.
Please don't leave us for the PRCA, by the way, like our last commissioner of insurance. Which is a true story. The last commissioner of insurance for the state of Wyoming picked up a job as the CFO? The CFO for the PRCA. So now he's running the largest rodeo in the nation.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think some of these people in the state know PRC is.
You should Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. That's the pro rodeo. Those are the folks that make big bucks. Way more. I got my hand at rodeo once. I'm a politician now, so that explains how good I was at it. I'm focused. I'm focused. Yeah. Cool. Good move. Scorched earth. So any public comment in regards to 20 LSO 78 version 0.4? Seeing no public comment, nobody's super excited about insurance. All right. Uploading public testimony, committee, what's your pleasure?
Move the bill to pass.
Moved by Senator Rothfuss. Second by Representative Yin. The package passed is second in the West. Committee, any comments, amendments? Question being called. Question being called. Ms. Ridley? Did I see that okay?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Please call the roll.
Senator Driscoll excused. Senator Nettleton. Aye. Representative Olson.
Aye.
Representative Yin.
Aye.
Mr. Cole. Excused. Mr. Kaufman.
Aye.
Ms. Long. Aye. Co-Chairman Rothfuss.
Aye.
Co-Chairman Lindholm.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that has been approved. Do you want to decide on recommendations for which state committee you'd like to consider this?
I think we can go ahead and back up a little bit. So I think that bill clearly goes to corporations. The bill prior go to minerals. If you're right with that, okay. And then we have, and then there's speedy amendments also go to minerals. Unless you want to send that to corporation. We could actually have a vote on this. Just yeah, that's a no. Sounds like a great time. Yeah. It's not that I don't trust you, Senator Nethercott. It just no comment, carved in stone. Next topic for our discussion is the University of Wyoming update, and I'd like to, Mr. Caldwell, Dr. Caldwell, are you going to run the ball on that one? Perfect. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Co-Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, we're a little bit early on this agenda item.
You want to take a break for a little bit?
It might be good to take a brief break just because we have a close to the one. And I believe Ms. Casey also was going to help participate.
Great.
With the Caldwell application. So
Okay.
it might be a good time to
Let's take a 10-minute, actually make it a 15-minute break. We'll just come back in at 3:15.
That's not perfect.
Perfect. 3:15.
Okay.
your win.
So, thank you, Ed. That's it. That's your gavel. Right. Okay, that's your.
I will. I'm not disappointed.
That's your drink hat.
No, you're pretty good. Other things,
Yeah. Dr. Caldwell, welcome to the Blockchain Task Force once again. Appreciate you being here, sir. And as kind of a background for the audience and for those that are watching on the screen, the University of Wyoming, over the last several years, they've had a blockchain class in the University of Wyoming that's been pretty successful. And last year, Representative Olson managed to convince through this task force, managed to convince the University of Wyoming that it might be fun to expand that program into making Wyoming the first Division I university in the United States with a blockchain certificate and then also a fintech certificate. I believe you funded that with a budget amendment. Yeah. And I think you ran that on the Senate side.
I believe so.
And it failed.
This time.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah. That's why
Sort
we
of.
were
I wouldn't quite say that. I wouldn't quite say that.
It was a close vote. It was close.
It went through, didn't it?
Well,
In the end, it's
yeah.
still a compromise. It's a process.
Yeah. So that's kind of the backstory. Dr. Caldwell, you've been the leader on this bill.
But, so yeah, I'm Jim Caldwell. I'm a professor at the University of Wyoming in the Department of Computer Science. Recently, the department head, I stepped down from that position this summer, and Ruben Gambo is now the department head. So I just to go over the history a little bit, I came to the September 2018 meeting in Jackson and was asked by the task force to write a proposal for what it would take for UW to have a sustainable education and research program in blockchain. And so I presented a proposal on October 29th at the Cheyenne meeting. And at that meeting, we decided, okay, let's send a letter to the trustees, suggesting that we follow through with this proposal. I will say that after that, I got a lot of attention from the higher administration, and we ended up putting back another proposal to you, which the trustees and the administration agreed on. And that proposal asks for essentially $3 million of combined funding, $1 million from the state with $800,000 a year ongoing to support 4 different new professorships, 2 in computer science, 1 in agricultural economics, and 1 in finance. That did not make it through the budget process, and we ended up getting $1 million in matching funds for an endowment for a future hire of a professor. So those funds are there, available to us as soon as we raise the matching.
Have you had any luck thus far, Dr. Caldwell, in with working with industry in that match?
We haven't started, we're starting, but we have not really started to raise those matching funds at this point.
Weekend for
It might be a good weekend, so. I guess what I'd say is, so we've been, through the efforts of the task force, we've got this bucket of money out there that we can't really quite touch yet. Now, at the last year, though, in the budget session, the College of Engineering was given $2 million in one-time funds, additional funds, that Dean Pishko said some of this would be allocated for to support the blockchain efforts. So the Department of Computer Science was able to hire a professor of practice in the blockchain area who's teaching and is working on the certificate proposals that were outlined, in the original proposal. So Philip Schlump, who is the individual that we hired, is currently teaching advanced databases, which has blockchain content in it, where he's developing SQL. He's having students develop SQL-based interface to blockchains.
I've had various conversations with Mr. Schlump or Dr. Schlump, and every one of them has gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's also teaching an introductory course, which is a data science-oriented introduction to computer science, where one of the projects they're going to be doing is writing code to monitor for fraud in the blockchain, and he's using more Bitcoin blockchain data for students to work with. So that's pretty exciting. Freshman doing that. Next semester he'll be teaching a course that's completely focused on blockchain. But in the meantime, he is working on developing the courses that we outlined in the proposal that was presented previously to the task force. So,
Doctor, with the part of the request for one-time funding, I think it's one-time funding. Yeah, that the university is going to be putting forward to the JAC, or put forward to the governor. I don't know if it made it through the governor's recommendation. We won't know for a couple of months. Third week in November, whether or not the governor agrees with the University of Wyoming, but that asks for more appropriation in regards to building up the blockchain certificate, plus the fintech certificate. Do you have any, does that look like the initial request from the trustee as far as those positions? I guess my question is, does it still make sense to have one of those professors in agricultural economics?
absolutely. I spoke before this meeting, and I knew I was going to come here with both the department head from Ag Econ and from accounting and finance. And, you know, they're both, I would say, enthusiastic about moving in this direction, but without funds, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Coach.
Is that request a one-time request for $1 million? Or is that an ongoing? That's an ongoing request. Yeah. It's that marriage process, right? I didn't think it was one time.
Ms. Acey. Thank you, by the way, Ms. Acey, for working out our parking woes. The Wyoming Legislature is the most incompetent group of people known in the University of Wyoming as parking areas. We're really bad at it. How many tickets did we get this morning? Raise your hand if you get. Yeah, I think everybody got a ticket. We're bad at this.
Mr. Chairman, I can only fix one ticket. Senator Nethercott already got it, so no, I'm just I apologize. The University of Wyoming is very
good.
Serious.
You're very good about parking.
Enforcing parking. So
We're just really bad at knowing where to park. It's not on you, it's on us. All of you. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think where we ended up last year was what Dr. Caldwell had said was $1 million of new one-time appropriations to be matched. And then the matching language is a little bit different than typical matching language. You can look at the budget. This coming session is a budget session, and the University of Wyoming has submitted our exception budget request to the governor's office. We'll meet with the governor on our exception request next week, and then the governor, obviously, his budget is due to the legislature. I believe that it was just changed to the third week of November. So we'll know where the governor comes out on his budget recommendations the third week of November. In our request that went to the governor, we did request ongoing funds that would potentially go to blockchain and the fintechs.
Define potentially, Ms. Acey.
Mr. Chairman, so the way that the university is funded by the state is through a block grant.
Right.
So we don't ask for, let's say, positions. We ask for increases to the block grant. The block grant then comes to the university, and the board of trustees, through the university's own budget process, then appropriates the funds from the block grant and other revenue out to the rest of the university.
It is the intent of the trustees, though, that money does go towards.
Mr. Chairman, it would be the intent of the trustees at this time. Now, depending on the amount of money that goes to the block grant, then that
For the
would-
blockchain, it's going to be confusing. I'm confused. I don't know where I'm at right now.
Then that's why I said. And I'll just remind the committee that the university has other sources of revenue beyond the block grant as well.
Okay. Questions for Ms. Eason? Seeing none. Questions for Dr. Caldwell? Do you have any? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Ms. Swan.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask Dr. Caldwell, what is the timing of getting that and raising the funds? Obviously, we've got a lot of folks here this weekend that may be interested in that. And how are you thinking about, are you looking, for a named endowed chair? Or are you looking for, a whole bunch of smaller gifts that might not actually have a name attached? And how much does the naming right cost?
Dr. Caldwell.
Fundraising is not really my forte, but we have, in discussion with Dean Pishko, which I should mention also, who has stepped down. So we've had a lot of changes, right? And since the spring, we have a different president, we have a different dean of the College of Engineering. I guess I didn't intend to be part of the wave, but I decided to step down as head of the computer science department, and actually in agriculture just hired a new dean this summer. So it's, and the dean of the College of Business is also relatively new. So I've been trying to pursue this in an environment where there kind of is no one up above to really help in the current situation. But I have written a proposal personally to industry, to one company in particular, to see if they're interested in funding a lab in the new ERB building, which is where the hackathon will take place this weekend. So, there are funding opportunities. You could have a named lab in the new engineering and education research building, for example, by providing matching funds to that endowment. The intention for the endowed funds then is to support an endowed position for a professor in blockchain, and those funds would be used to, first of all, augment the salary because it's a very competitive area to hire in, and then to provide funds for lab and travel and graduate students and the things that you would expect that would come with an endowed position at the University of Wyoming. So that's the intention.
It's got a really good ring to it. It's long lab.
Yeah.
Consensus lab.
Go ahead, Mr. Coachella.
I think we've got a lot of great names for endowed chairs that are in the room right now and around campus. But Mr. Chairman, going to the $2 million ongoing, which is kind of a different cost structure, is that focusing once again on the 4 faculty members' ongoing operations, or are we expanding beyond that? And I believe that's both blockchain and fintech for the $2 million. So do we have a concept of what that's going to look like as it moves forward?
Okay.
I guess, Senator Rothfuss, I guess I'm slightly confused by your question. There was $2 million awarded by the legislature to the College of Engineering, I believe with the intention that some of that be earmarked for blockchain, supporting blockchain efforts.
That was part of the legislative intent
Yes.
that came from the Senate.
Right. And the Dean Pishko did in fact use some of those funds to hire for 1 year a professor to practice in the area. So that's the plan. And some of those funds may be used are being used to help support the hackathon this year.
Mr. Chairman, and Professor Caldwell, I'll go to Meredith, because we're talking about the ongoing budget request that is being submitted to Governor, which is $2 million of ongoing. So I was curious more about what those would be going towards if we end up receiving that budget request by the trustees, and that's the lead one.
Okay, so Meredith clarified for me. Thank you. So, yeah, so if we got the 2 million ongoing, we would be able to hire 4 faculty members, 2 in computer science was the intention of the original proposal, 1 in finance and accounting who would focus on fintech and applications of blockchain in fintech, and then the 3rd would be in ag econ with a focus on supply chain, for example, issues in the food chain. And they're already, in discussions with people there, they already get, outreach questions from ranchers and farmers in the state saying, how can I use this technology, to benefit my business? And, on the fintech side, I think it's a kind of a unique mix. The field really of blockchain is kind of a very unique mixture of computer science together. So the technology from computer science together with the ideas from the business world. And so mixing the 3, and then an application area which is ag econ would provide kind of a well-rounded certificate program where part of the program includes courses in computer science, and some of it is finance, and some of it is ag econ. So that was the intention of what the certificate program would look like.
Representative Olson.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify, at least just for the record, that $2 million of one-time monies that went to the College of Engineering it's my understanding that all $2 million of it actually is supposed to be blockchain related, because that would more closely resemble the original amendment, which I'm intimately familiar with. So, I did talk to the dean of the College of Engineering. I think it was in July in Cheyenne, and he indicated I wanted to see if that message had made its way to the dean, and he most certainly indicated that it had. And so I think he was on the same page too. And I had asked him earlier, the chairman asked a question about private fundraising. I asked him the same question, and he actually had indicated that they maybe had some possible leads at that time, and that was in July.
Absolutely. I mean, we have not had any contributions to the matching fund at this point, but certainly the foundation is working with us on doing that kind of outreach, and I've written my own proposal. But at this point, we have no matching funds to report.
And as a point of note, the original amendment that you proposed to the House that passed was not ran by Senator Driscoll, and it failed 14 to 16.
Mr. Chairman, that explains some things now.
He's not here, so we get to pick on him. 14, 16, but the only good senators in this room voted for it. Dr. Caldwell?
Well, I'd just like to say, thank you to the task force for, pushing for funding for this. I think it's an important area for the University of Wyoming to be involved in. And without your efforts, we wouldn't be as far as we are, although I have to say I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get more of what we had hoped for to get things going. I know that
the House supported your position. That's what you're about to say.
Yeah. Ms. Long, I know, is somewhat impatient with the slow process in the university, but it takes a long time to hire just do a search and hire a person and bring on a full-time person onto the university payroll. And in fact, let me just say that that was also an issue that was brought up to me by both Ag Econ and FinTech, or the accounting and finance chairs, was that they're not sure how they would find a person that would fit these, the qualifications really.
Right.
It's a difficult search at this time.
Right.
So,
and I think it's, this is such an important aspect for a lot of folks that kind of line up in my camp, because the University of Wyoming is so far away from home, right? So we don't really have a whole bunch of folks back home that are University of Wyoming graduates. So oftentimes we hear about degrees that just don't make any sense to us, where we live, where we're big in energy, where we're big in agriculture. You hear about these degrees that don't make any sense. And then you meet people that, hey, what's your degree in? Microbiology. Well, you're a reporter. So sometimes that doesn't make a whole lot of sense for folks like myself with no degree. Where this is really pointed towards an industry. So it makes good sense, and that's why I'm excited about it, is because we're talking about an industry that has 16 job openings for one individual that has expertise right now. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on it. Any more questions? Saying no. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
Public comment in regards to the University of Wyoming and their efforts. Mr. Allen, come on.
So I think one of the worst challenges for Wyoming is going to be finding the right candidates for this. So one of the questions I had was the earmarking of this for full-time or adjunct or whatever. There may be some opportunities to bring people in for shorter sessions that might work for you. The other side of things is that I look at what's happening in other universities, in particular Stanford. They're integrating into more things. If you look at the people's analysis of why Satoshi's work was so good, it wasn't just coding. The code was kind of mediocre. It was the combination of incentive design, the social mechanics, mimetic design, integrating all of these different types of things, much of which does not come out of traditional economic classes, does not come out of a traditional law or out of traditional business. So I encourage some thinking that a more integrated type of approach is something that's important. Already some other schools are beginning to address that.
Any questions from Mr. Allen? Yep, go ahead, Mr. Co-Chairman.
I just will clarify that certainly the way the statute is right now, and as well as the way the future budget request would be positioned, there is no detail about what types of positions. It's just consistent with the objective, so there'd be a great deal of flexibility.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Appreciate it very much. Any further public testimony in regards to the University of Wyoming and their efforts? Seeing none, I'm going to close public testimony. Committee discussion. Mr. Co-Chairman. Or did you?
Yeah, unless there's something else. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is no bill to move, but I do think it would be a good idea for this task force to send a letter to the governor as he's working out his budget recommendations in support of the proposed recommendation from the Board of Trustees of the University for $2 million addition to the block grant that would be used to develop this blockchain work and fintech work moving forward. I think it's critical that if we're going to build an entire ecosystem in Wyoming blockchain, that we have expertise and workforce available to support that without having to work everyone out of state. And this is a path towards that. I'm not even sure $2 million is enough, but I think it's an excellent start.
putting together work in a department at a university, you want to make sure that you have sufficient critical mass at the university, that it's not just a one person doing research, but you're building a research group, that you have a community, and that you have continuity. If one person leaves, there's the ability for others to pick it up and to carry it along. So while what we did in the last budget was beneficial, the continuity is essential, and we're not going to have that unless we have ongoing funds. So this proposal from the trustees, I think, is appropriate, and so I will move to have this task force draft a letter to the governor supporting the $2 million request for ongoing resources by the UW Board of Trustees for water transport.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Long. Committee discussion. And you sure you didn't need to say support University of Wyoming's whole budget request? I'm just joking. Yeah, he's like, yes.
Yes.
I think it would be out of the purview.
It might be. All right. We'll just stick with it.
Yeah, sorry, Miss AC.
Strong point.
Yeah. So the ideology is to put forward a letter to the governor supporting the university's request for extra funds in regards to blockchain and fintech. Any other committee discussion? Yeah, go ahead, Representative.
When Mr. Allen was testifying, he said the word law, and it made me think that while the commissioner's not in the room, the university might consider it might be coming that the College of Law would consider a professorship, and I think Mr. Land would be just so perfect for that since he's always being headhunted.
It would serve Commissioner Porter. Yeah. Question being called on the draft letter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion's carried. Staff, would you be, do you have sufficient direction on that, or do you need more specifics? What do you think, Mr. Shaw?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think we have enough specifics. We can talk to our budget fiscal folks to get through that. And if we need help, we'll.
Okay. If it's all right with the committee, we'll just have the chairman work with LSO staff on approval of that. Absent any objection. All right, committee, that is all that is on our schedule for the day. Yeah, let's go into general public comment. This is our last, so generally in our general public comment, that's where folks bring us ideas. This is an area that we need to fix. It's kind of tough on the last meeting because we're not really going to be able to draft any legislation, but it's something that any one of the legislators up here could pick up on their own. So keep that in mind. If you've got any wild ideas that you think could be crafted into Wyoming law, not all ideas are welcome. Doesn't mean we're going to run them, but it's always good discussion. So, any general public comment? No, we passed everything. We've done it all. Good job, guys. All right, so no general public comment. Really appreciate everybody's participation today. We're not that late.